Live now. Sweet. Hello, YouTube world. It's good to see you again. So, as I was just saying on the private stream, for the sake of folks who might be tuning in on YouTube, we'll start out with a bit of a framing conversation. Just what's next. Walk through the InVision board a little bit and try and figure out, where we can start poking at next, because we're starting to beat the Learn page to death. And it's time for the next, I think the next phase. So our meeting agenda is issue number 159 of website redesign. I just dropped a link in the chat there. But really, I want to start out. Oscar, you dropped a link in the an issue in website redesign. It's number 157. Just technically the first issue on the list here. It links to a Google Doc where you wanted to capture nice to haves and wants and needs good of current website status and vision for the future. I want to implore everybody to keep adding to that list. It looks like we only have a few bullet points in there. So this will help guide Oscar as he keeps going down the rabbit hole. But kind of number freewheeling regard here, we do have an InVision board kind of that was setting vision for structure and content. Just dropped a link in the channel. I would read the long number for folks on the stream, but that would probably not be beneficial. I'll share that elsewhere. Actually, here, I'll just comment on the meeting ticket with the InVision board. No. So this was a long time ago, kind of source of truth for longer term vision. And it has most of the large verticals of the site blocked out. It's really split up into 5 sections: homepage, the Learn page, which should look fairly clear, the docs page, which is a reskin of the current API docs. Big hand wave here because there's a lot of functionality we can pack in, but we're limited by the way the docs are currently structured. We're gonna have to create it there. The release.
Sorry, man. Do you want to share your screen maybe?
Oh, yeah, it'll be a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I have a little bandwidth right now, so we'll see if it works. But I
can share mine if it doesn't.
Share. I got it. I think this should do it. Cool. Can everybody see?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have the homepage, which is self-explanatory. Again, a bunch of hand-wavy content for the homepage. I think we get to iterate on this, but should be something of this structure with this general content on here. Consider layout entirely optional. Like, I think we just identified major content sections. We need an upsell, we need a download button, the learn more button. We need some way to brag. It might be the 1, 2, 3 punch here. It might be something, differently structured depending on content we want to fit in. Some type of live demo, some type of newsletter subscription, and then some type of bragging feature, like who uses it. Oh, by the way, I don't actually know if these companies use Node. This was a drag and drop wireframing segment. So if
for what it's worth, I'm fairly confident all of them do, except for the first one. I'm not sure about Mashable.
Yeah. Anywho, the Learn page should look fairly familiar. It's what we've been working on the past month and a half or so. This one's in a pretty happy place right now, and I think we have a good plan for next steps for the docs page. So this is, again, big hand wave because there's a lot we can pack in here, like I said, for extra features. Like, it would be awesome to pull out this like API reference at the top. Maybe you can minimize that. It would be nice to have the actual presentation of this a little bit more custom. It would be nice to have this custom layout for methods and error events and yada yada. But we might be very limited by the way the current docs are stored. So we're going to have to do some type of deep dive to see exactly what we can do here. And honestly, a reskin of the current docs page might be easier as a first step. And don't do any feature additions, don't do any major layout changes, just make it look like the rest of the website. And then we can iterate as we become familiar with it. The releases section, So this is where you go to download whatever version you want if you're downloading manually. So there's a whole bunch of information here. We can do a much better job of documenting our release process. Like this chart is hard to understand, but we tracked down good examples of people who communicate that well, and it's just epically long list if you really want it of every release with the SHA sum and the date release, yada yada yada. There's also this like download grid, which desperately needs to be redesigned as well. As like, hey, you want to install for a specific system? Here you go. Here's the button to click. By default, it should present you with for your system that we can infer and wave download options for LTS, current, and nightly. There was also a lot of communication around how we should talk about package managers. So like people who install through NVM or who install through some other system-specific package system. Should we document that? A lot of them are not maintained by Node proper. So outstanding questions there. And then you notice the community page is non-existent because we don't know what content's going to go on there. I'm hoping that the outreach working group will help flesh out that content. That's just up and coming group. So yeah, that's just a quick review of the state of the future. Oh, thank you, owner. You just linked to the Ember.js releases page, which honestly, of all the frameworks I've seen, at least does the best of communicating release process.
I think that looks really lovely. I mean, do you see at the first look all the releases, how often, what comes after what, and all the sections, all the process is so obvious.
Yeah, so that's slash releases. Is that the URL? I know you just linked to it. I could probably just click it. If my internet works, it'll load pretty pictures. Yeah, so it actually like communicates what each type is as this nice like branded drawing for the release type, and talks about path to wherever they're going, the time for releases, and where they are in the process right now. So really nice. There's some creative stuff we can do here if we want to dive deep. Yeah, I guess I'll open the floor. Let's see, anybody have thoughts, opinions, where we should go next, what we should do next? I know I certainly do, and I can keep talking for forever, but I want to shut up.
Maybe let me give a quick update on the knowledge data integration from Node.js org. I start with this, and I'm up to, first of all, well, do a similar page as Learn page, because we have lots of articles which are the same, like the NPM or like console log and that kind of stuff. I don't know, I would go for a new page, first of all, and leave it there until people, I don't know, can work with it and fix it a bit, because I don't think so that will be, I don't know, that easy to fix everything and then release. It won't work, in my opinion. But we should, of course, in the future, I don't know if it's a good idea to keep how-to page and also learn page. That's a bit confusing.
You're talking about the existing knowledge base articles.
Yes.
Integrating these. Yeah, so these are kind of the hope for my hope for the Learn page, which certainly is subject to change. Because so for context, we have a whole bunch of articles in what's called the current knowledge base, not organized, not arranged in any particular way. Some of which might already be duplicated in the existing Learn page, some of which might be completely new. My kind of hope for the Learn page, and I'm sure there's extra there's more we can do from a design standpoint to communicate this better. Is to really encourage sectioning out content like this. So it might not just stop at advanced guides. It can continue on to like, I'm an SRE, I need to keep a node stack up. Here's what I need to know. Like really have it like tailored content for use case and be able to drill down into a certain use case well. There's like, I wouldn't necessarily trust the knowledge base articles to have a comprehensive overview of that type of thing, but maybe like deep dive into a specific area where somebody contributed back a document. And so like identifying where we need to expand on content to really provide a good overview might behoove us right now.
But should we do it ongoing, or should we just, I don't know, should someone just take a look on all these articles and then, I don't know, prepare maybe something what we can publish additionally to the Learn page? Or should we just, I don't know, publish them and then sort them out?
Mm-hmm. We could, I don't know, my gut reaction is like, here, this what our streams page has significant overlap with, the Node.js streams page here. Actually, is this the same content? I kind of, no.
I mean, I saw something that has like how to ECMAScript 5 with Node. It's like, well, okay, that probably, that's something that definitely isn't in the guide because I think it's probably assumed context.
Yeah.
Going through and deduping and seeing like what we have already and what we don't, and which of the ones that are in here, like how do you try catch, that kind of stuff, like what is required, that's a good one. But seeing what we already have covered and then culling those from this list is going to be helpful. Like what is the file package.json? I'm pretty sure that's covered in the Node.js.dev.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So
and like, are there,
anything?
Yeah, so that deduping will be important. And it might be time to add that advanced guides section, because like somebody getting started with Node doesn't need to know what event emitters are necessarily. But like if you're really diving deep and wanting to get to know it intimately, like you'll probably want to get through it. Or you'll probably want to pick this up. So for a lot of these, they might just be able to go into, for the moment, a catch-all advanced guides section if they're not already covered in the getting started section. And like that'll just take the onerous process of going through each article and figuring out where it fits in.
Okay, then I would change my approach. I would go that way, then, that I don't do an extra page for that article, for that knowledge page. I pick articles which are not existing right now in the Learn page. Just add them in under the title, I don't know, advanced something, and then we can just sort them out while going, fix them, whatever. Yeah,
if you take just a first pass and stick them in that advanced section where there isn't already duplicate content, we can create in the PR, make sure that they live in the right place. And there would probably be a couple tricky ones where like we'll have to have a good conversation around it for content structure purposes.
I do think that, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like if you want to keep it simple, maybe just create a new section called knowledge base and like dump everything there, and then maybe work from there to like, let's move all the content first inside the repo under like a new third section maybe. That's like very simple and like path of least resistance.
What we also can do, of course, we can create a knowledge page, which I called how to, actually, because a lot of article starts with how to, so I called it how to's. Maybe we can integrate them. I mean, we can pull the content down to a Node.js dev repo. We can have a page which gets created from Gatsby statically, but we just don't link it nowhere, so we can just edit it. So we don't need to necessarily publish it in some way.
Yeah, I think as long as, oh wait, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that one more time? Link to it so you don't have to.
I mean, we don't need to link to the page nowhere in the top navigation or in the left bar. You don't need to link it nowhere. Just the page exists, but you don't have access from the index, so that people can still edit it and work on it, but it doesn't really need to necessarily be published.
I see what you're saying. So just get the content into the repo, have a essentially private page where we can store or stash the content for now, and we can triage later.
Will be an option, yes.
Yeah, that is certainly an option. I mean, this it's largely documentation content, so wouldn't iterating in a PR as if we're putting it into the learn page for deduping content like be functionally the same? Like we're not blocking anybody by not having it live on the deployed site right now. Luckily, not yet at least.
No, I don't see it as a problem there. Totally agree on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's also worth noting that I don't have the metrics for this site. I've never seen this page before. And I use this site more than probably most people do. Like, I don't even know how you get here. So I doubt it gets a ton of traffic. And so, that's another thing to consider is also looking at which of these pages actually do get traffic to know which are the topics that people care about right now. That's another good thing that I think we could do to allow us to kind of prioritize which topics we need to cover that already exist.
I want to plus one on that. I know we talked with Adam, and Adam told me that there's no like analytics for the site at all. But if it would be,
there are.
Oh, there are?
They have this hooked up to Google Analytics. Yeah. It's we don't necessarily have easy access. They can provide us that access. But it does exist.
Oh my God, that'll be awesome.
So I want to triple check. I'm going to stop screen sharing for wait, you share what? I'm going to stop screen sharing for a hot second and try and dig up this Google Analytics right now, because I remember a little while back that the Google Analytics got gutted from the website. For privacy
I forgot about that.
reasons. Yeah, so we might have old data.
Yes,
but I don't think we've been getting new data for the past few months.
I thought it got gutted for like 2 or 3 months and then it got fixed, but I could be wrong.
Wait, Tierney, when you say that,
we can take a look. Oscar, I can
cool.
Oh, who is they? As in they have access to Google Analytics?
So it's the people who run the foundation. So I believe the person I know who used to have access, they don't work there anymore. So it's the foundation people, the folks who run the OpenJS Foundation.
Yeah.
So they gave me access a while back to the Google Analytics account, so I can actually just go log in and see what the latest data is. So I'll get it on that. And Oscar, I'll get you that data so that we can start working on that. And Oscar, I know you have to peace out at 9:30ish, which is coming up. I want to make sure that we have whatever we need to get for you, so that you're on block and can start hacking away on this. For what for your process, what would you like from us? What type of direction would you like in order to get started?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, thanks, Adam. So I had a couple of questions for you guys, or not questions, but like maybe action items. I do want to create like an information architecture of the entire site, and for each page, kind of put what's the real goal behind each page, like what's the purpose of existence of that page, right? And why we need to have it. So, for example, when you guys were talking about the learn page, is that maybe like a section where people can like create, where we can create tutorials for people, or is just mainly just a dump of information that they can just read and not really do things, but just read documentation? Or is that the doc side? All those little things. I want to be able to have a really good understanding of the entire like tree of the site. And then So that's the first thing. The first thing was to do a like an information architecture tree of the site, share with you guys based on what you put together, Adam, with this InVision. So I'll share with you guys, and then each page will have maybe a goal, and you guys can tell me, yes, that's pretty much what we're trying to like accomplish here, or what the users will try to accomplish in each page. And then based on that, I'll like to create a style sheet, which is really just a style, like all the styles from Node.js. So the colors, the typography, maybe any iconography that you guys have, any illustrations. Just put it all together to start creating kind of like a little design system that we can use for other things outside of the site as well. So that's the second thing. And then I was gonna ask you guys if we could reach out to the community. Maybe we talked about this, Adam, but I think it would be nice to involve the community in this process. So in the redesign process, so we could ask them like some of the questions on the Google Doc, like, you know, what do you like the most about Node.js, or I don't know, like we can word it differently, like what's the best documentation site that you have ever encountered or something like that, so we can or what do you like to see more on the Node.js site, so that, you know, it starts to become more like a community involvement redesign. So what do you guys think about all those three things? So the outreach to the community via Twitter. Second, the information architecture, kind of like put it in like an actual tree with each goal. And then the style sheet with all the styles for Node.js.
I think all of them are fantastic ideas. Because we've not had anybody before who kind of like, other than Adam, who kind of iterated on these aspects. But I'm not sure about like how do we go around reaching out to the community to gather feedback. Adam?
Yep. Yeah. So I think this Google Doc that you put together is a great start. And I'd love to get it in a format that's a bit more digestible for a larger group. And honestly, I think all we have to do is copy these questions into a Google form. Like, let's just get this step 1, step 2, step 3, answer these 5 questions, click submit. You've contributed back to Node.js website redesign. And we can get this tweeted out probably by the foundation Twitter account, and start collecting feedback that way. Yeah,
I like that Google form thing, because then we will have data to back up our, you know, design rationales as to why we created and stuff like that. So yeah, that'll be really cool. Also, I mean, the Google, if we can get the Google Analytics, that'll be awesome to see, you know, what if we could, like, I don't know how much we're tracking, but it'll be nice to know where people go first, and then from there, kind of like the story behind each session. But yeah, we'll see.
So as Adam said, like the analytics might have been taken down, but we do have historical data. I can tell you right now, 90% of traffic is to downloads. I can tell you that right off the bat. So I think that's a lack of having having a strong navigation or information architecture and navigation structure, and, you know, having resources that people want to come back to. And so I don't think that's like a permanent thing. I think it's just like, this is the one thing people always want to do on the site, and they don't know they can come do other things too. So
got it. And where do you know where
certainly move those numbers?
Got it. Do you know where people are maybe learning about Node.js? Is not the site, right? Maybe they're going to other.
No. I mean, it's if they're using JavaScript, they basically have to use Node. And so like whatever, I mean, like I'm not saying that in a negative way, but like if you're going to use Webpack or React or anything like that, anything from the npm registry, you're going to have Node to be able to use npm and to be able to build systems and all that. So it's
Oscar,
sorry, go ahead.
Here's a good question to add to the questionnaire. Where do you currently go to learn about Node?
Yeah, that's actually a really good
yeah, like let's get that info.
Yeah, because we can look at what, if it's YouTube or whatever, or if it's like an actual site they're going, or we can look at what type of content they're putting and how they're putting it as well.
Totally.
Cool. So
yeah, and
I have a question about the mini design system. My question is like, instead of building one, can we like explore like theming an existing one with this design instead of building one?
With the current one?
I don't know if there's a current one.
The current one is fairly non-existent. And there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that we cannot really change too much of the what I call foundations or colors and typography and all that stuff. Or how much can we change, Adam? Do you know?
We can change everything except for the logo, basically.
Okay.
And the logo we're allowed to change within reason. Hear me out, Tierney. So the trademark for the logo specifies Pantone, or Pantone. What is it? Yeah, Pantone colors. And there's a little bit of wiggle room in how those are translated to hex values, because they don't translate one-to-one on web. So that color palette proposal that I have out on Medium right now has a subtle enough change to the green scale that it maps to the same Pantone color, doesn't violate the trademark, but looks better on display screens. So I would highly recommend using that green spectrum in that proposal at the very least. Everything else is up for grabs. But the shape and form of the logo, the Pantone colors of the logo are basically the only two things we cannot change. Everything else is fair game.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we can start with what you had. Obviously, maybe we can do some small tweaks, but the idea would be to be awesome. That, like you said, to be able to theme this and maybe see how things look. Once we roll out the site, it would be nice to just change a couple of values on a config file or whatever, and be able to have like individual themings. If people want to make maybe I don't know, like we talked about this, Adam, like a meetup page in I don't know, Argentina or whatever, they could use the design system and themes really, really fast.
Totally. As far as implementation, I want to very much separate the design phase of getting the system down and the execution phase of getting the system down, because I do design systems at LinkedIn, basically for my full-time gig, and it's a pain to build one from scratch, 1000%. But taking one off the shelf and retheming it, especially for our use case, might be a good approach. We also are a giant team of developers all over the world, so it's maybe not the worst thing if we are able to customize things off the shelf a little bit faster than most. Probably we're also probably able to build stuff from scratch faster than most. So it'll probably be determined by the needs of the pages that we're on. If we can identify a good existing design system, like component library, that's easy to retheme, and we can adjust with our own typography and item spacing and color palette, let's do it. Less work, the better. Otherwise, I don't think we should be too terribly scared of building it ourselves if we absolutely need to.
Awesome.
So we can jump that hurdle when we have a look and feel.
Got it. So I'm gonna start creating then the style sheet. We can change the values, but at least we have a structure of what are the five foundations. So color, typography, spacing, And do we have like an iconography library that we could use, or
nope.
Like, okay.
Ideally, we take an open source one off the shelf, but yeah, we don't have one picked out yet. We can use any of them. Yeah.
Cool. And
there, I would probably stick more towards the open source side of the icon library world. But if there are paid options that you think would absolutely fit perfectly for one reason or another, we can investigate getting a license for it, or paying like a one-time fee for it, or seeing what's possible.
No, I think
ideally free is better.
Yeah, for sure. No worries.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So action items for me. For me specifically, I'm gonna start creating the information architecture, the tree. Also, a structure for the style sheet, the Google form with the questions that are on the Google Doc, and yeah, that's all I had for me. And for you guys, what I had was see if we can get any Google Analytics info. And that's it.
Awesome.
Are you creating the information
I like that balance
tree?
I'm basing it on what Adam already did. So that's just as a starting point. But I'm assuming that it will change a little bit once we get the data from the survey, or ideally, we would get the data from the survey and say, okay, yeah, this is the right approach to do the site. But that's my approach. Yeah.
Well, like, I don't know.
Yeah. So it sounds like it'll be in.
What was that?
I don't know like too much of what you mean by like a tree.
Oh, like this is the home page, right? So right now I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hubs underneath the home. So the home is pretty much where people would go when they type Node.js.dev.
Yeah.
And then underneath that, what other pages would they see, right? Like, for example, on the Learn page, which is like really a hub, what type of tutorials we would have there, what type of information we would have there for the documentation, what is the documentation we'll have if we're gonna have
kind of like this right here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the website structure as it currently is.
Okay.
It's kind of this abomination of leaf pages that were slapped in there with no good rhyme or reason. It's probably a little bit more intentional than that, but so we would want something probably similar to this for the entire site, just to formalize it and make sure we it is. I would certainly recommend, like there was a little bit of work done here already. Probably not as in granular detail as you were thinking. So, but feel free to use this as a launching point.
Yeah. Can you send me that one?
Yeah.
I want to make sure that every page that is in there, every like little node in that tree has a purpose, right? Like it's actually, we're dedicating time based on, a valuable, something that would be valuable for our users, right? So, yeah.
Awesome.
Is that the one that you just copied? No.
Yeah, that's the one that just got pinged in the chat. Issue number 4 in website redesign.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll ping it to you directly on Slack too. So.
Cool.
Well, I know you wanted to cut out at 9:30.
Sorry, guys.
Over, but we'll let you go. We got a little bit more to talk about from the data standpoint. I want to start thinking about what we can do to start working, like what we need right now, and we know we'll need regardless of design. What data we'll need flowing to be able to make these pages work, and how we can start approaching that. Because that's a big, fun conversation, which will be fun to slice up. So,
cool.
Thank you for staying a little longer, Oscar. We appreciate it.
You got it, guys. Well, it was really nice to meet you guys. Real excited. Yeah,
definitely.
Great to meet you too.
All right.
Cool. Awesome. So, getting back to the actual agenda, because hey, guess what? We have an agenda today. I swear we do. Have outstanding tickets that were tagged for talk about how to pull in the API documentation, how to pull in the translated content, which we need to reping Zeke for getting that spin-off meeting happening. That did not coalesce. And then there's also a feature request for searching for the docs. I'd also like to open a new ticket here for pulling in historical data about past releases. So like this is the type of, well, we're going to need this like list of content in order to make the releases page happen. I don't know where it currently lives, in what format it lives. We get it. Tierney, do you have any context on that?
Go to nodejs.org/, sorry, I've been working with this file a lot. /dist/index.json. I can put it in the chat. Yeah.
Diggity dog. Look at that. Cool. Well, that was easy. So I'd love to make a task for hitting up this file and being able to just at least display a list of all prior versions. And we can start thinking about how to make it searchable or navigatable, but like we'll need this data loaded onto some page on the site in order to make it work. So I'm going to issue for that. But a lot of our next phase tasks, if we're going to lump, these two issues in with the releases issue, like it's about loading data. It's about integrating with something that already exists and finding out how to get it in there. And we really just need somebody to get into the weeds, I feel like, for each one of these and come up with a proposal of how to integrate. Yeah, it's going to be a fun task, and it might just take assigning it to somebody and saying, hey, go deep dive. Yeah, Tierney, do you have any context in how the current API documentation is built and stored? I know I looked at this like a year and a half ago, long time ago, but I don't remember exactly how it.
I have no clue now. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
it's stored in the core repo. I don't know how it's actually deployed. I believe it's built from that and then deployed. But beyond that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they have some sort of a static site generator in the core, within like a docs folder. So they basically have a script that emits the page.
Yeah, and it's just stored currently as big old markdown files. Is that how it is?
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Doc.
Yeah, well, that's convenient for us. So this API file has markdown for all the current API docs. Yeah, that's fun. So I think a good first step for getting API stuff displayed, and like I said, we can get data flowing without design so far right now because it's going to be a large task in and of itself. So I don't entirely know what they use to generate current API docs, but as long as we're pulling content, like I think we can probably take a similar approach. As long as we're just pulling content, we can probably take a similar approach to how we currently build the Gatsby site and just have Node as a dev dependency and pull it in the docs folder, right? Yeah. So that's, getting that wired up would be a pretty discrete task, large but discrete.
It would also be interesting if we could, instead of pulling Node in as a dev dependency, because we'd have to do a Git dependency. Instead of doing it that way, I wonder if we could have a separate repo or a separate tool that pulls in the docs and then publishes them as a module on NPM that we can then consume. That might be too complex for what we're trying to do, but that'd be a nice thing to do.
Yeah. We also we're going to want historical documentation. So I believe just recently, they added this version switcher to the docs. I don't know how they build and host prior versions.
It's all in the build system, I believe.
Yeah. So we're going to have to come up with an approach for not just hosting the latest, like pulling in at a we're going to want to generate static pages for probably the last release of every major version. Is that correct?
So you're going to want to do, I mean, the docs change between versions. So honestly, you're going to want to do every version.
That'll be fun.
Actually, I would say, I mean, at first step, it will be, in my opinion, better if you just pull the docs from the original repo from Node.js org. And if you feel ready to go, we can move all the docs to the Node.js dev. Shouldn't be actually an issue.
So the problem though is that the docs evolve over time. So like when they release 8.15.1, it's different from 18.15.0, and like every single incremental version effectively changes docs. Like there are usually 50 plus changes to docs in every release. So you do want, like, for someone who is on 8.14.2 or even 10.0.7 or like whatever, or sorry, 0.10.7, whatever ancient versions, people still need those. And so it's, you have to have those older versions. And I believe we might be able to just pull the data directly from the build system. I'm not sure how that works, but you do need to have that source. Also, I believe there's JSON for all of this actually on the website right now that I'm remembering or thinking about it more. I believe it's all stored in JSON.
So anything that we, even that, I forget what tab I have it open in now, that past releases JSON page, like we can depend on that for right now. But if we're hoping to go towards a world where we replace Node.js.org, then we're going to have to replace any data sources we're leveraging if they're deployed to the current static site. So, it's there's the JSON file.
Well, so what we can do though is, like, we don't need to build. We only need to build when there's a new release, and if we can backfill, that's fine. Like the old versions aren't going to be changing. It shouldn't be changing theoretically.
I hear you. So just a separate Node module that republishes along with Node proper that just contains docs, historical docs for everything. Yeah, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, and we can automate that, like with that index file. You can go ahead and literally automate everything, and just pull that out, the markdown, because like if you replace .json with .md, the markdown for that file is actually there.
Yeah.
So
I see, I think, two tasks here. One is the visual side of this. So like I have a dependency. It has markdown files in it that I consider API documentation. I want to display it. So for the first pass of that, we can actually have a git target in our package JSON to current head of Node and just use this docs directory with markdown, all the markdown committed in it, and just get it displaying on something that looks like an API page with a version switcher that will only have one version, which is latest. Another task will be getting historical API documentation in a consumable way. So this will be, we need a new Node module that delivers markdown for every release of Node, presumably just a whole bunch of folders with the version number, and then the docs folder at that released version. And then once we get that thing published and hopefully a little bit automated, we can swap out the git target as the dev dependency with the new Node module, and theoretically, the visual side of this will still work after we swap it out under the hood. Yeah. Cool. I'll capture that in this issue. This issue? Which issue was it? This issue. Yeah, I'll capture that in this issue, and probably spin out a separate issue for the dedicated Node module. Tierney, I know you've been working a lot with pulling in historical info here. Like, is this something that you'd be interested in tackling?
I'm interested. I don't think I have time, unfortunately. I have too many other things on my plate right now. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I'll make at least a requirement spec, and we can divvy it out to people who want it, or maybe somebody in the community will scoop it up and make it happen. We can. I'm assuming that once we get something up and running that can easily pull in documentation at a version, we'll be able to throw in a Git hook to kick off that build process of some sort whenever there's a release, right? We can talk with build about that, or sorry, the release working group about that.
No, it'd be build. It'd be build. It wouldn't be release.
It'd be build.
I think.
Yeah, and if not, they'll point us in the right direction. Cool, that's fun. Anything else to add about API documentation ingestion? There's like too many tabs open, y'all. It's terrifying. You can actually see my crazy screen here. There we go.
Also, I think we published the documentation in the form of JSON, which is consumed by some other applications like DevDocs. So we probably would want to continue doing that.
Good point. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that depends on API docs being published in the current format, in the current location. That's a good note.
I mean, it basically all it's doing is providing markdown as at a specific path like that we can replicate, I think.
Yeah.
Or do you mean like the website? Oh yeah, like the SEO stuff and like backlinks.
We're talking about like there's probably third-party sites that depend on the current
and also there are like
and JSON
documentation documentation tools like Dash or DevDocs. They basically scrape our site, and I think they are using the JSON version that we provide.
Cool. That'll be part of the task, is to emulate where it's currently published just as raw data, so we don't break folks. Awesome. So create API module, create visual. I'll flesh this out later. Create visual half depending on target to current repo. Cool. Awesome. I'll flesh that out. Thank you for that reminder. That's very important. Awesome. The other issue on this list, localized document consumption. We do have 2 minutes left. This, I'll keep bugging I18N folk to get that meeting set up. I think there's work to be done on their end to publish the node module and to really get the API interface worked out for us. So I'll keep bugging them for a spin-off meeting and just schedule it myself if they're too busy to drop a doodle. There was a feature request for search on the docs page. I think it's a great idea. I think we need it. I think it might be a little bit too early to execute on it since we don't have API docs up and running yet, and we don't know how integration is going to look. But I wanted to raise it as a hell yes, we're going to do this. This needs to happen. Let's do it.
I also know that Algolia is pretty forthcoming with free credits for their platform for open source stuff.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, React and a few other open source projects already use them.
Yeah, Gatsby actually has a really good integration with Algolia. So it should just kind of happen out of the box. Fingers crossed. But yeah, we'll note from today's meeting. We're going to do this. Likely after API docs land in the site. And we have content to test against. So pick up. Well, that happens. Cool. And then the last part, I'm going to make stub tickets by manual. I'm going to make stub tickets. This is the last comment I have, at least. I'm going to make stub tickets for pulling in past version releases and just getting an ugly looking page that just dumps all that info out. We'll probably keep it in PR for a while until we start getting designs for it, so we don't have something ugly sitting around. But similar to how we need to get API docs ingestion working, we need to get past version releases ingestion working. And for now, we can probably just rely on that JSON file. Like hit it up.
The JSON file is very comprehensive.
Yeah. So we'll get a page that makes client side call that JSON file like an API request and dumps the data out on the page, and we'll call that an early integration for now. And maybe
for what it's worth, I can make I have several of those up already. I can do well, maybe not in this project. Okay, ignore me. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I'll set up that stub ticket. We are also one past the hour, so I want to be conscious of time. But any other last minute pressing issues that we wanted to talk about on the call? Quickly. Take the silence as a resounding, we covered everything. Great meeting, Adam. Thank you for the compliment, everybody. Cool. Well, with that, I will stop the live stream and stop sharing my screen. And we'll call that a meeting. Thank you all. Oh God, what tab was it in? Nope, wait.